Did you know that there is a fungus that infects ants and spiders and sort of turns them into like zombie ants that actually do the bidding of the fungus? And I did not just make that up. Hi there, I am Lindsay with Off the Beaten Hook, and I'm gonna take 2 minutes to explain to you what exactly this video is for so you are not confused. And that fungus I was talking about, it's real. Look it up, it's called cordyceps. I took about a year to design a very detailed and robust mushroom harvest pattern that includes 9 varieties of mushrooms in multiple different sizes for a total of 21 individual mushroom patterns. Now, for the most part, all of those patterns use single crochet and continuous rounds with your most basic amigurumi skills and techniques. However, I am using some intermediate skills and techniques to add some of those really unique and distinctive features that many of these mushroom varieties are known for, and that is why we are here. In this tutorial, I am going to demonstrate 3 of the more advanced techniques I use in these patterns so that even beginners can successfully make these little mushrooms. And I will mention those 3 techniques in a minute, but first I want you to know that all of these 21 patterns are available for free on my blog, or alternatively, you can purchase the pattern PDF, which is 44 pages, if you want to be able to print it and have these available to you ad-free whenever you want them or need them. So the links to both of those options can be found in the description box below. So those 3 techniques I was referring to are 1, how to crochet the gills on 3 of the different mushroom varieties. So the same technique is used for the gills on the chanterelle, the indigo milk cap, and the oyster mushrooms. Secondly, how to make the French knot, which is used to make the scales on the Fly Agaric and the Verdigris Agaric mushrooms. And finally, I cover in detail how to crochet those distinctive pits and ridges on my favorite mushroom ever, the Morel. Now, I have included timestamps for all the things I cover in this tutorial down in the description box, so absolutely feel free to just skip over to the part that you're looking for the mushroom that you're making right now. And while we're here, I would love it if you would like this video, subscribe to my channel, and if you hit that little bell icon, you'll be notified of when I put out new videos like free patterns or crochet classes or tutorials like this one. And I just want to say thank you so much for doing that. Thank you for being here. Your support means everything to me. All right, so let's dive into those mushrooms. So I'm going to go ahead and make the gills of this mushroom with you. I am meeting you at the very end of the stem. So for round 13, we're ending with a slip stitch. And then our next row is going to be of double crochets. So we're going to go ahead and chain 2 to bring our row up to the proper height. So for this next row, we're simply going to do 1 double crochet in each stitch around. So beginning in that very stitch that you just made your slip stitch, since that was the first stitch of the round, we will make our double crochet. All right, so 1 double crochet in each stitch around. We've got 12 double crochets going all the way around, and that's going to set us up on our first row of the gills here. Now, to get this texture to create the gills, we're going to be doing front post double crochets for several rows. So at the end of this round, we are going to go ahead and slip stitch to close that round and chain 2. So now for our first row of crochets, we're also going to be increasing. So we're going to be placing 1 around this first stitch, and then we're going to be placing 2 around this stitch. We're going to be doing that same pattern. So we'll be doing 1 here, 2 here. So we're going to do that all the way around. All right, so I'm going to show you how to do your first front post stitch. So go ahead and yarn over, and going behind that double crochet, So you're not going to be going into the stitch like this. If you're just doing a normal double crochet, you'd be going through your stitch on the top. You're actually seeing that each of these double crochets creates these long stitches, and that's called the post of the stitch. And so we're going to be doing what's called the front post double crochet, which goes underneath. So you put it front to back between two, and you bring it back up behind that post. And here's what that will look like. So double crochet, so we're yarning over and we're going under that post, and we're just yarning over and completing our double crochet just like normal. So it's just double crochet. The only difference is where you're putting it, okay? So I am going to go ahead and mark my first stitch of the round. Okay, so for this next one, we're going to be placing 2 around this stitch. Okay, so there's 1, and then we're going to go around that exact same post with another double crochet. And this is going to start to flare out the mushroom, so the gills start to become like a flared out V shape. All right, so again, around this next one, we're going to just place 1. And then around this next one, we'll place 2. So around the post, double crochet, and another one in that around that same post. So continue that combination all the way around. All right, I'm on my final increase here, my 2 back post double crochets and around this last stitch of the round. All right, so I am going to slip stitch to that first stitch that I marked to close that round. Okay, and then we're going to chain 2 to set us up for our next row. So let's take a look at what that looks like. See, you're starting to see the gill texture, and you're starting to see how it flares out a little bit. Right, I'm going to do one more row with you, and then you'll get the gist of it, because you're going to do several rows based on whether you're doing the small or the large. There's just a 1 row difference, but it's the same traditional increase method of increasing, like when you're increasing in a round. We're going to be doing 1 in the next stitch, 1 in the next stitch, and then 2 in the next stitch. And you'll do that combination of stitches 6 times around. And this is what that will look like, all right? So we're going to do 1, okay, I'm going to place my stitch marker after that first stitch so I know where to join the round when I come back around. Okay, and now this next one, I just wanted to show you, but you're just going to be placing 1 crochet in this next stitch. But what you'll see is in our previous round, this is where we did the increase, where we placed 2 in that 1 stitch, and it looks a little bit different when you're doing the posts on that one. This is the post right here. So don't be tempted to go all the way around. You can see when you're just doing 1, it's a little bit more of a clear post like this. It's pretty easy to see where you're going in and back out. But when you've done the increase, it's a little tighter in between the stitches. No big deal. Just make sure you're popping your hook up behind that 1 instead of both of that group of an increase. Okay, so we're just doing 1. In this next one, we're going to do an increase. So we're going to place 2 stitches around this post. 1, 2. Okay, again, we're placing 1, 1 more right here, and an increase around this one, so placing 2 around this one. All right, so continue in that pattern all the way around, and I'll meet you at the end and we will see what it looks like. Okay, now I am going to slip stitch to that first stitch that I marked, and I will chain 2 to set myself up for the next round. And this is what it would look like at that point. All right, so from here, I would encourage you to follow the written pattern, refer to this if you need to, but this will definitely get you through the building of the bottom of the cap where these gills are. I'm going to show you how to do the French knot, which is what I use to create the scales on these mushrooms. So I've taken a length of yarn. This is the same color as the stem. And I am going to just kind of bring it in anywhere along this stem underneath, and just I'm going to bring my tapestry needle and poke it out the stitch where I want to place my scale. Zoom in a little bit there. Okay, so I'm just bringing my tapestry needle out, and then I'll leave a yarn tail over here that I'll just pull to the inside. Okay, but what you're going to do to make the knot is you're going to take the tip of your tapestry needle and this yarn that you just pulled through, and you're going to wrap the yarn around the tip twice or 3 times, depending on how big you want your little scale to be. In fact, looking right here, this one right here, I wrapped it around twice. These ones, these bigger ones, I wrapped around 3 times. So you can kind of mix it up to make it look a little bit more natural. Do some twice, some 3 times. So I just wrapped it around 3 times there. And now what you're going to do is just hold that yarn. You want to hold that knot tightly against the surface of the cap as you pull your needle the rest of the way through. Okay, so I'm just holding it tightly with this finger. I'm going to pull my tapestry needle through those wraps that I just made. And pull, 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 pull all the way through. And that is going to make a little knot right there. You can actually see how I didn't hold it close enough to the surface. So it kind of, you can see it pulled through a little bit. If I had tightened it down a little bit more, that little knot should be right at the tip of the surface. And then what I'm going to do is I am going to bring my needle back down right next to where I just made that knot. You don't want to go like a whole stitch over, or you'll see the end and the beginning of the knot, but just kind of just through a few threads right next door. Bring it over and bring it back out wherever you want to make your next little scale. So I'm actually doing right at the very tip of this row on the opposite side. Okay, so I'm just bringing back in, coming back out on the other side wherever I want my next scale to be. And as you pull it through, you'll see it create that little scale right on top, just like that. And that's the French knot. So I'll do one more with you here. See if I can do this one a little bit tighter. So just take your tapestry needle. Okay, you're going to take that yarn, you're going to wrap it around 2 or 3 times. I'll go for 3. And tighten that down, holding that knot right against the cap. Holding nice and tight, and pull that needle through. Okay, and there you have it. And again, you're going to go right next to it. Just find a few threads over, maybe through the middle of this stitch here. Bring it back to the inside and out wherever you want your next one to be. Pull that rest of the way through. And that creates your little bump right on the surface. And that is how you do the scales for this little mushroom. So now I am going to talk to you about how we are going to achieve that iconic Morel mushroom squiggly texture on top of this cap that we have already made. Now you can use whatever color you want. I'm going to use a contrasting color so that it's easier for you to see how it's being built onto this cap. So right now we have finished the stem and we have finished the inside of the cap, and I'm going to bring in a kind of a cream colored yarn and show you how to make the squigglies. So I'll walk you through it just so you can visualize how it's going to come together. if you are one of those like me who wants to visualize it before I actually start it. If not, then you can fast forward. So what you have here is after round 10, you made your, when you switched to your dark color or when you switched to the cap, you worked through the back loops only. And what that left was a row of front loops here that you're going to work into as you make this next part. So you have 12 of those loops, okay? And you have 6 loops that you ended with at the top when you decreased. You made your final row of decreases around, so you had 6 stitches, and then of course you closed those, okay? So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be working into these loops here. We're going to be making some surface single crochets that we're going to be creating through the posts of these single crochets from this cap. And what that looks like is you're inserting your hook straight in between 2 of the rows, and you're coming out the row right above it like that. And you're going to create your single crochet just like normal, but rather going through a stitch, you're going through the post, okay? And then your next one will be down where you just poked out in this next one, okay? So you can visualize that a little bit as we actually go along. And so we'll be making a row of single crochets going from a loop up to the top, and then single crocheting increases back into it to create a line of squigglies. And we're going to do 6 of those. So when you come back down, we'll be doing a slip stitch, we'll chain, we'll skip over, and we'll go into this one. Okay, we're going to go back up and end up at a stitch up here. Okay, and we're going to be going kind of almost a zigzagging, and then you can come back and mess around with your little squigglies and adjust them and make them just how you want them to look. That is the overview. Now let me show you how to do it. Go ahead and take your hook. It does not matter where you join down here. This was the end of my row, so I'm going to go ahead and just join in this next one. Okay, I'm going to bring in, I'm not going to slip knot onto my hook. This is how I'm going to join. I'm going to just pull my yarn through. If I slip knot, it'll create kind of an extra bump that I don't want, okay? And that is how I am rejoining, okay? And now go ahead and slip knot onto your hook like that. All right, you'll weave in that end later or now or whatever. All right, so we're going to start with our first line of single crochet going from this stitch here all the way up to the tip. And then in the very last stitch that we make, which is between these last 2 rounds, we're going to do a slip stitch instead of a single crochet, and that'll just kind of taper it a little bit more nicely at the top. So I will show you that when we get there. All right, so starting anywhere you want, anywhere somewhat straight, somewhat squiggly. All right, so starting right away, taking my hook into that very first row of the dark brown and going around the post and popping up between the next row, yarning over and completing a single crochet. Okay, so now going straight back in between the row that you just came out, going back in and popping up behind that next row, completing your single crochet. Okay, back in, coming back out. You're going to do this all the way to the tip. Okay, see I'm coming along? And again, it does not have to be perfectly straight. Preferably, it wouldn't be, because it just adds a little more character. So instead of coming out to this one straight, I'm gonna go over out of this one. Okay, let me see what happens there. Okay, back in, back out. Through every single row of this cap. Okay, this is my last one that I'm going to make. I'm coming up right along the side of that magic circle. You're not going to go through the top of it. Complete your final single crochet. All right, so there you've got your first line of the single crochet. All right, so then you're going to chain 1
and turn. And now we are going to make the series of single crochet increases as we make our way back down this line. So I'm going to start with a 2 single crochets in this very first one, and 3 single crochets in this next stitch. I'm going to alternate that all the way back down. Now take a little bit of artistic liberty. If you want it to be even more squiggly than mine is, then you can do 3 single crochets in every single stitch rather than alternating. Or if you want it to be less squiggly, then just do the 2 single crochet. So just do this all the way back down to the bottom of the cap. You are not going to work in that very last single crochet. You're going to stop short of that one just to make that taper a little bit more smoothly as you make your way back down to the stem. All right, I'm at my last stitch here. I'm doing 3 single crochet, and then remember I'm going to leave this very last stitch of the row unworked. Okay, so I got my one final single crochet. We're just going to skip that one, right? Make a chain as you end, and now we're going to do that same thing into this very next front loop. And then what's going to happen is as you make your way up, and I will do that one more with you, again, since we have 12 loops that we're working with here, but we only have 6 stitches as it tapers to the top, you're going to end up finishing off this one that you're about to do right now. You're going to finish it off in that same stitch that you finished this one off. And then when you're coming back down to do your next row, you'll finish it off in the next stitch. And then the next one you do will go into that same stitch. So you'll always have, you know, each one of these is going to have to share with somebody else here at the top. All right, so here's how that's going to look. All right, so we ended with our chain 1. So now I'm going to go do a slip stitch in this next loop from the where we did our transition from the stem to the cap. Okay, we're going to just slip stitch there. Chain 1. And now I'm going to make my way straight up to the top again, just in the same exact way as I did the last line. Okay, I am making it to the very end of my last row here. So again, what it's going to look like is getting a little bit tight. Let me just zoom in a little bit here. What you'll see happen is you're going to have to end this row of single crochet in that same stitch from the top. Okay, so I'm doing my last single crochet and I'm popping out the same place that I popped out when I did that row. So we're just going to share that final stitch. Right? Chain, turn, and make your way down in the exact same way. Okay, so I will meet you there and show you how it starts to look as it builds upon each other. All right, I'm on my last stitch that I'm actually going to work into. Okay, I'm skipping this final stitch of the row. This here is my slip stitch. So I'm going to skip this one. I'm going to make a chain here at the end of the row, and I'm going to slip stitch into this next front loop right here. Slip stitch. Chain 1, and you're going to start making your way right up alongside this to the next one. And remember, on this row, you'll end in this next stitch here. So there you have it. So these guys can use a little love, just kind of shape them. Isn't that fun? Right, so of course I'm going to check in with you here at the Oh, I am making my last increase. I'm going to do 3 in this last one. Oh my gosh, this is just way too much fun. Okay, so I'm making my last stitch. And to finish this off, I'm going to do a chain like I normally would. And then I'm just going to do a slip stitch it to that very first slip stitch I made in that front loop along the bottom. Okay, I'm just going to slip stitch it there and fasten off and snip that. just long enough to weave that into the inside. So pull that through, and there it is. Oh my gosh, I can't stand it. It's so fun. Okay, so right now everything's going in the same direction because I just have not messed at all with these these gills. And so what I'll do is go back and sort of, I'll push them in different directions and make them curl a little bit this way, and then I'll want this one to like be the opposite way. And so I'll just kind of come in and play with these and curl them up in different directions so they'll look a little bit more like a morel, which is very, random. The little pockets are very randomly. And there you have your cute little morel mushroom.